Now that we have installed the ProX 70200 on our burner, we will review the setup. The state-of-the-art control is universal and self-commissioning right out of the box to fit most oil burners with and without oil solenoid valves. When the ProX 70200 is powered for the first time, an on-screen question will appear. Does the burner have a solenoid valve? You answer this question based on the type of equipment you connect to. If you answer yes, the ProX configures itself for pre- and post-purge. If you answer no, there will be no pre-purge and no post-purge, since oil burners without oil valves cannot purge. This single question and answer on Power Up will provide enough information for the ProX to self-commission. This procedure is only required for a replacement unit. A ProX 70200 that is pre-mounted on a burner is already programmed for that appliance and may differ from the default settings. For any changes and custom applications, we will review the simple and easy setup right now. Before proceeding, it is important with all equipment to read and understand the instructions. Be sure to inspect the appliance and perform all appliance and burner manufacturer checks before starting the system. Do not start the burner if the combustion chamber contains oil or oil vapors. If the CAD cell senses flame, the ProX 70200 control will remain in standby until the CAD cell no longer senses a flame. The ProX 70200 has 11 customizable features. A chart of these features can be found in the installation and operating instructions, which is included with every unit. Note that the default settings are shaded in gray. Programming the ProX 70200 primary control. To enter the setup mode, simultaneously press and hold the up and right arrow buttons for 2 seconds. This displays a message on the screen that instructs you to press the right arrow key again to continue into the settings mode, or you press and hold the left arrow key to exit. If no key is pressed within 60 seconds, the screen will return to its previous mode. Let's press the right arrow key to enter setup. Once in the setup mode, you will navigate by using the arrow keys. Use the right arrow button to view the settings mode options. Use the up and down arrow keys to navigate through the settings. The screen will display the option on line 1 and the current setting for each option on line 2. To change any of the option settings, press the right arrow button to select the desired option, then use the up or down buttons to scroll through available settings. Once you make your choice, press the right arrow button to accept. When the word entered appears on the screen, that change has been made. You may continue scrolling through the options or exit the setup menu by pressing and holding the left arrow key. The ProX 70200 default settings will accommodate most burners with an oil solenoid valve. The factory defaults are shaded in gray. The first mode option in the setup is valve delay on. The setting refers to the time period the motor and igniter are on prior to trial for ignition. Some refer to this as pre-purge. The default setting is 30 seconds. This option is not available if you selected no valve during the initial startup. Trial for ignition, referred to as the TFI, also known as the safety timing. This is the flame establishing period. The default setting is 15 seconds. Other options are 30 and 45 seconds. Do not use 45-second TFI for oil burners with a firing rate of 3 gallons per hour or greater. Motor delay off. This is the time period the motor is on after the call for heat is satisfied. Use this option to allow for the evacuation of combustion gases from the appliance. Some refer to this as post-purge. factory default for motor delay off is 30 seconds. This option is also not available if you answered no during the initial startup. Programmable motor delay off is very useful when replacing primaries on direct vent applications that most often have an extended post-purge cycle. If there is a call for heat during motor delay off, the burner will cycle back to pre-purge. Flame stabilization option is the time period after TFI that the igniter remains on. It is an added igniter time to assist in stabilizing the flame. Up to 45 seconds may be added. It is very useful in cold oil situations and cold start application. Flame stabilization can prevent nuisance shutdowns. It is important to note that this is not an extension of TFI. You're only adding more time to the igniter on cycle. The next option, CAD ohms max, is a feature used when the ProX 70200 is connected to a burner that requires a higher resistance for the CAD cell to operate. Most burners and all Carlin burners will use 3300 ohms. Following that is ignition type. There are two options, interrupted and smart intermittent. In interrupted mode, spark is turned off after TFI or flame stabilization. With smart intermittent, in the event that the flame is lost at any time after the trial for ignition period, the ProX will immediately shut down the burner and recycle after 60 seconds. Following this recycle, the ignition will operate in intermittent mode for the next 10 cycles. Following these 10 cycles, the ProX 70200 will revert back to interrupted duty and will remain in interrupted duty until another recycle event occurs. The factory default for ignition type is interrupted. The TT jumpered option allows T1 and T2 to be jumpered by the software program without the need for a physical jumper. The default for this option is set to no. It is important to know that if you set this option to yes with the limits powered, the ProX will exit the settings mode and enter into a call for heat cycle. Next is the vent input option. This option works in conjunction with the BV terminals, which stands for block vent. The vent option on the ProX 70200 can be configured to detect a blockage of combustion air entering the burner or to detect a block flue. If this option is set to intake, the BV terminals must be connected to a Carlin combustion air proving system known as the CAP system. The CAP system is designed to monitor outside combustion air. If the air intake becomes blocked, the system will allow for a safe burner shutdown. Conversely, if the vent input option is set to exhaust, a thermal spill switch or pressure switch in the flue must be connected to the BV terminals. Built-in delays and recycle features add to the usefulness. This feature by default is off and must be set for use. Following that is allowed recycles. This is the number of recycles allowed during any single call for heat. A recycle is defined as a shutdown when the flame signal is lost, but not during the TFI cycle. After a brief pause for 60 seconds, the ProX will recycle and attempt to reestablish a flame. This option can be set to 3 or none. The default is 3. Any attempt by the burner to exceed the recycle limit will result in a lockout and a fault message, recycle limit exceeded. The clear fault history option allows you to erase all prior burner faults in memory. Select yes to erase the fault history. Clearing the fault history allows you to erase the old fault data and start fresh. Factory defaults. This option is set to no. If you wanted to revert back to the original setup, you can change this option to yes. If you opt to restore to the factory defaults, the ProX 70200 will revert to its factory settings program, and the question, does burner have a solenoid valve, will display on the screen. Now press the left arrow button for 3 seconds to exit the setup mode. The screen will return to its previous mode, in this case, standby, no call for heat.